Good evening, everyone at Celebrate Recovery. It's Jordan Craig. I'm just recording this morning, Thursday morning, for you all. And I'm going to be talking today about sanity. And I'll spend some time talking about insanity too, because it's related, and how that's played out through my life and through my addiction, through my recovery as well. So before we get started, let's just welcome the Lord's presence here with a prayer. Father God, we thank you for revealing your word to us, for being the light in our hearts that shines on every part of our life, the parts that we readily talk about and the parts also that we'd like to keep hidden. And thank you for your healing touch, your loving care, which exposes us and just accepts us the way we are. We thank you, Father. Thank you for sending your Son, Jesus, to provide a way back to sanity. Amen. All right, so my story with sanity and insanity, I'll just start from the beginning. I was raised in a very loving family, and as a teenager, it was always expected that I would go to college, and that would be the start of my adult life. I was very dependent on my parents during those years, and I hadn't really come into my own yet. And just as I was beginning to, I had started taking classes at North Country Community College when I was 17, and had started just discovering some of that freedom in life that we all discover at that age of having a first car and first significant relationship, and just so many new things in my life and new responsibilities. And I really excelled at it. I was an excellent student. I loved college. I loved the whole experience. I enjoyed having my own wheels and renting a room, having my own place to live. I was still close to my family, but I was striking out on my own. And right around that time, that summer when I turned 18, is when my whole world changed. All the expectations I had of my family being there to support me, and of school always being this fulfilling part of my life, everything changed. Over the course of a few months, I came to learn that my parents were getting separated. And that was a very confusing time for me. I started to question God, started to question the church, which I had been going to every week since I was a small boy, since I can remember, my earliest memories, Always remember being in church and being involved in Sunday school and other church groups as well. There was a lot of sanity in my life during those years, until that radical shift happened where no longer was it mom and dad and all of us kids. I have 7 siblings in my family, so we're just real tight, and people always joke, so you could have your own football team, and we did. We'd go and we'd play games together, and it could be 4-on-4 or 5-on-5, and that's just how it was. Everybody being together, that sense of connection, that sense of belonging was very strong. And when I learned that was going away, that my family wasn't going to look the same, that my life was changing, that I just felt so alone during that time, and just estranged from my parents. My father moved 500 miles away, and I'd go to visit him, and I didn't really know who he was. My father, who I knew growing up, it wasn't matching the picture of my dad in West Virginia, and he was drinking a lot at that time, and I remember driving all night one night, and getting in late to see him, and just remember seeing him sprawled out on the couch, and he had a big red wine bottle not that far from where he was, and just being such a shock to me, seeing my dad change, seeing my mom change. She became very quiet, and I didn't really feel like I knew who she was then. I knew who she was as my mom, but as a person, as a whole being, I didn't know what her dreams and desires were in life. And um, I knew she had a strong faith, but I wasn't really sure. I'm like, what's going on? And so that was the beginning of this journey. Painful, very painful at times, but this journey of discovering, who am I? Not who am I inside my family, but who is Jordan in the world. And so I continued going to community college and graduated in 2009. And at that point, my family had disbanded. I was part of the community college community there, very plugged in with the student government and with my classes and teachers, and I was a tutor, and that was a big part of my identity, was Jordan, the A+ student. And when I graduated, that was in early 2009, I had this identity crisis again of who am I, um, who am I, where do I fit in? And it was over that summer that I decided, hey, I've got these school loans to pay off, and rather than continue on to a film school, why don't I take a pause here and pay off these loans and regroup? I was yearning for a sense of reality, wanting to know what reality was. And that's part of our definition of insanity, isn't it? Is when we do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. And I think for me, that insanity was a lack of being in touch with reality. I had come up with this version of life in my own mind of what I thought life was about and who I thought people were and who I thought I was. I thought I was Jordan the son. I thought I was Jordan the A+ student. Those were my identities. And all the while I was really ignoring or running away from a deeper identity that I now know. During that time I decided, hey, I want to pay off these school loans and figure out a way to do that while still living in the Tri-Lakes, Adirondack region. So I did. Started working in a restaurant in the mornings, started working at another restaurant at nights, and I was just really busting it, working 6-7 days a week. I'd still show up to church when I could, but really working and paying off those loans became my number one priority, and that was my new identity for a season. Being in the restaurant world, it can be difficult, long hours, and definitely a drinking culture that I discovered, discovered what alcohol was and what it was like to be drunk and to just have all these pains and things going on inside of my head. They left when I was drunk, and I had this sense of relief. In AA we mention the 12 promises, and these are the promises that come from finding a solution in life, right? And the solution in life I had found was alcohol. And the 12 promises that alcohol was telling me was, your fear of economic insecurity is going to go away. I certainly wasn't worrying about the loans or money issues while I was out drinking and getting drunk. And, fear of people went away. I wasn't very confident, especially around pretty women, young women my own age, and being drunk, it kind of gave me this ability where this fear of other people went away from me. Even getting into a few bar fights, I just was fearless. Looking back, maybe stupid, but it was really alcohol had allowed me, this lack of fear. And other promises it told me too, all the cares and worries of the world went away, and I could trust in myself, my drunk self, really. And anyway, a number of things happened, I guess, during that time that started to hint at some powerlessness in my life, some lack of control. Landing my car in a snowbank early one morning on my way to work. I was still, maybe I was still a little drunk, definitely hungover from drinking the night before. I remember blacking out, driving home a couple times, not remembering how I had gotten home, but one time in specific, I was sitting in the driver's seat of my car in my driveway, and the car was still on. It was in park. I was safe. The car was fine, but it was running. The engine was running, and I got out, and all the snow and ice on the driveway had melted underneath the car. It was like 2 inches thick, and I knew I'd been sitting there for a while. Just some of these things that hinted at a powerlessness in my life, an insanity of, doing the same thing, believing what alcohol was telling me, that I could have a good time, that I could relax and just let go for a while. I believed that, and it led to this lifestyle of every night just going out and seeking some happiness, seeking some gratification, and in a bar and all the things that come with that. I wanted to find out, what pleasure was, and what I was looking for so many things in life, and I didn't even know it. So there comes a point in life when if what we're doing is not matching up with reality, if it's truly insane behavior, that insanity will catch up with us. And that happened for me in March of 2012. I didn't know what was really going on. I just knew that getting drunk and chasing relationships wasn't working for me anymore. Something wasn't working. I couldn't really describe it. I like to verbally process things, and I felt I had no one left to turn to really talk to and figure out some of these deeper issues. I didn't think it was about alcohol. I just thought, man, I'm not really committing to a career here. I'm not really committing to a relationship. I'm 22, almost 23. What am I doing? Where's my life going? I don't know. And I just wanted so much to just talk about it and have some peace, have some relief, that things were going to be okay. And that was really what brought me to a change. Is some friends of mine from the church, a couple just reached out to me and said, "Hey, Jordan, we haven't seen you in a while. Why don't you come over for dinner?" And I came over early for dinner, and was finally able to just let my guard down and trust them because of the love that they were showing me. And that was really the bottom for me, was during that time when I could just open up my heart and share, hey, life's not working out for me, and I haven't talked to anybody about this except you two. Where do we go from here? And the first question they asked me is if I thought I had a problem with alcohol. And I didn't see it. I really didn't see it. But as I was sharing my life story and my life struggles with them, they heard alcohol. They heard that insanity of always going out to the bars and always going out to a house party. They knew I was looking for something. And they had the wisdom and the foresight to be able to see that in my story. Looking back now, I can see it too. But isn't that what insanity is? We're blinded from reality. Even though we think we may understand something, or that lostness that I felt, and just wanting to talk to somebody and try to figure out these struggles in life. The insanity was really this cloudiness. This kind of cloud had settled over my mind where I wasn't seeing clearly. I wasn't sure what to trust, who to trust, where would my feet land. And that's a real insanity, because once that cloud settled in, man, I knew the way out. The way out was another drink. The way out was another relationship. The way out was just seeking whatever felt good in the moment. Not really slowing down my mind or my heart to really ask, who am I and where am I going and how am I going to get there, but just saying, hey, that sounds fun, or I think that would be a good time. Let me just go do it and try it. I tried marijuana a few times and thought it would be fun. It didn't really stick to me. Thankfully, I don't have that addiction, but I do know what addiction is. Along with the alcohol came smoking cigarettes, smoking cigars. But it's always a lie. And the lie was, wow, you're a cigar aficionado. Look at how sophisticated you look, or being able to tell the difference between a South American grown tobacco or grown in a different region. That's what my mind was telling me it was all about, but really I was just fooling myself. So let's talk about sanity and what that really means. These books that Jeremiah gave us a week ago, some of us have started that journey of going through this first book, stepping out of denial and into God's grace. And there's a lesson in here on sanity, on our topic tonight, and it mentions step 2, that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And for me, that's the concept of hope, right? Is that there is a God out there, and He can restore me to something. It gives me something to look forward to, something to hope in, to place my hope and my trust in Jesus Christ. And I'd really encourage you to pick up one of these books and start working through it. This lesson on sanity, there's a part toward the end where you can jot down, there's 7 or 8 questions that ask, about how you've been insane in your own life and that journey towards sanity. I can see where my expectations set me up for insane behavior, insane repetitive behavior. I expected myself to be perfect, whether it was in that school environment, being the A+ student, because that was how I saw myself, that identity, right? That identity of being an A+ student. I expected my parents to get back together. That wasn't happening, but that was my expectation for quite a while, until I slowed down and had some good counsel in my life to help show me that, hey, that isn't happening, and I've got to move forward, look forward and move forward. And that's sanity, is moving forward. Insanity often, for me, involves looking back to the way things used to be and wanting it, right? I remember the first time I got drunk and that high I felt, that amazingly good feeling that filled my body and my mind. And a lot of times when I went out, I know I was looking for that same high I got the first time. But that's how sin works, it's a law of diminishing returns. It promises that high and that fulfillment, and that good feeling from the first time, and every time it just turns out to be less and less and less until it's really nothing. Another question that's asked is, how has trusting in my own feelings and emotions gotten me into trouble? And I remember toward the end of my drinking, I was working at a luxury resort, and I just laugh now looking back at the disillusionment I was living in, because I would show up late and hungover, not very productive, and I would wonder why my coworkers would be so frustrated and angry with me, and why I always seemed to be getting the short end of the stick there in the workplace. And the reason why is I was so confused is I wasn't living in reality. I wasn't living life on life's terms. I wasn't taking an inventory of who I was and the hurts I was causing other people. I ended up shortly after getting sober, putting in my 2 weeks notice and moving on to another job. And in that conversation with my manager, I found out that before I'd gotten sober, when I was working there, they had a few conversations about me and nearly let me go, you know? And that was the reality of what was going on. It's just amazing, you know, the Lord's hand has been on my life in every phase of my life, whether I've been acknowledging Him and living for Him or not. You know, another question that the Sanity lesson asks us is, how can Jesus Christ, your higher power, help to restore you to make sane decisions and live a sane life? And I can't help but think of Corrie ten Boom in her book, The Hiding Place, where she describes Jesus Christ as the ultimate reality. And that's how she shares Christ with the world. And, you know, all the traveling engagements that she had and all the churches and public arenas that she spoke in, she was sharing Jesus Christ as the ultimate reality. So this concept of sanity and insanity, you know, I see that return to sanity is living life on life's terms, living in reality. And if Jesus Christ is that ultimate reality, then wow, you know, there's no other way to live. There's no other way to sanity. Sanity also reminds me of sanitary, cleanliness, right? Being sanitary is being clean. And that insane thinking is really dirty, polluted thinking. And really, by coming to a higher power, by coming to Jesus Christ, allowing Him to just wash my mind, renew my mind, right? You know, what areas of my life am I ready to let go of, to release the control I think I have over them? And there's so many areas. You know, I want to surrender my whole life, and doing a third step prayer in the morning really helps with that. And saying, God, your will be done, not mine today. I don't know what's in store today, but you do, and I trust you with it. But some specific areas of my life right now that I'm handing over, and I see my insane thinking, my repetitive behaviors. You know, one of them is school. I do want to go back to school, so I've handed that over to the Lord. And certainly my addiction to alcohol and my addiction to relationships, those things I'm handing over to the Lord too. And I'd just like to end these thoughts on sanity with a few verses. The first is out of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and it says, "But this precious treasure, this light and power that now shine within us, is held in a perishable container." That's our weak bodies. Everyone can see that the glorious power within must be from God and not in our own strength. We are pressed on every side by troubles, but not crushed and broken. We are perplexed because we don't know why things happen as they do, but we don't give up and quit. That's talking about that insane thinking. But Paul reminds us in Romans 12, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but be a new and different person with a fresh newness in all you do and think. Then you will learn from your own experience how His ways will really satisfy you. And that's really sanity, is submitting our life to Jesus Christ and to His ways of living. I'm just so grateful to be part of this Celebrate Recovery group, and to talk to you tonight, to talk to you this morning from New York City, but you'll be watching this tonight on the topic of sanity. It's an amazing ride. I'm so grateful to God for how He's working in me, how He's working in each of you. Each of you are an encouragement to me. God bless you, and I hope to see you next week.